I've been running independent alternative events for over 20 years. Join me and my guests as we share stories and insights into our times working in the unpredictable world of producing events.
My guest is an acoustic singer-songwriter who's gigged in multitudes of live music venues and stood on various festival and concert stages in Australia and Europe over many years and continues to perform today. Prita Grealy, welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks so much, mate.
No worries.
Good to finally meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. So, you've been gigging for a long time.
I have.
And that means that you've gigged in a lot of venues.
Yes.
And you've stood on a lot of stages, like I said.
That is true.
So, with this interview with everybody, we go back and we start with where'd you grow up and where'd you go to school?
Well, this is maybe where that gypsy reference might come in. My family moved a lot when I was young, so I actually went to school in many places. Starting off, I think my first school went to daycare in Freo, and then we were down in Bustleton for my first half of year one, then Capel Primary, then Albany, and then I went to a few different schools down in Albany.
Oh, so you...
And then I went across to New South Wales, so yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, splat. That's me.
So grew up in regional southwest Australia.
Yeah, and then, high school mostly in New South Wales, in country New South Wales as well.
Okay.
In cheese country.
In the what?
Do you know cheese country?
Cheese country?
Yes.
Well, cheese is one of my weaknesses, actually.
Me also. I too partake in the cheese.
All right, we both have that understanding.
Yeah, good. If all else fails, we can just eat some cheese.
I didn't expect this to get cheesy so
far. Oh, hey, look out.
So what was playing on the stereo growing up?
So, again, I had a couple of different families because my parents split when I was very young. So my West Coast family, they used to play a lot of Indian meditation music. So it was a lot of really different tunings and different sounding kind of meditation type music.
Yeah.
And Kundalini stuff and all that kind of stuff. And then my mum, I remember she had a Stevie Wonder record that she just loved. It was her favourite. I don't know if it was the best of or something, but it was a great Stevie Wonder cassette, I guess, at those days.
Okay.
That was played all the time. And probably my first favourite cassettes of my own were Whitney Houston. Definitely, yep. And Diana Ross and the Supremes.
Oh, yeah, cool.
And then my family on the other side of the country, New South Wales, they were really into things like Crowded House, John Farnham, Tracy Chapman, U2. So I got, and then my brothers were really into like a lot of, Beastie Boys and Bob Marley and, all kinds of. So I had a kind of
bit of
eclectic
mixtape.
Yeah, and my stepdad as well. He was really into Julio Iglesias.
Oh yeah,
classic.
My mum had a Julio record.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've got his duet with Willie Nelson on vinyl. Okay, so then you hit high school and stuff, and how are you starting to gravitate towards music and live performance?
So in high school, when I started high school, in my first year was in Albany, so Albany Senior High School, and while I was there, I started guitar lessons because one of my best friends was starting guitar lessons, and I wanted to do everything she did because I thought she was amazing. So I started classical guitar lessons.
Oh yeah, cool.
So I did that for about a year, and while I was doing the guitar lessons in the whole guitar school, the teachers of that school, I guess, decided that they should form a young band. And so they grabbed different people from the guitar school to be in this band. But I was chosen as a singer, not as a guitarist, which is I can totally understand.
Yeah, right.
Because, Apache Tears only go so far. But yeah, so I was the singer in the band, and we used to rehearse every Saturday in in a shed in their block of land out in the middle of nowhere, which sounds really strange now, but at the time it was so great. Every Saturday we'd go and, I don't know, do things like, here come on flat top, here come growing up.
Oh yeah, Beatles.
Yeah. And then, you know, just all the songs that they chose, we played. And yeah.
Oh, cool.
So that was my kind of first band experience, and we played a couple of gigs and stuff around town, which was pretty cool. And then when I moved to East Coast, I suddenly was in a whole new bunch of people, and the school was actually a lot more drama and music focused. So I was very lucky that I landed in a really good spot for music. And, they really encouraged performance. So I just joined every performing thing, everything that was on a stage, whether it was dance or drama or music or acting, whatever. I just joined in and,
got into it.
Started doing all the talent quests and, you know.
Okay.
Jamming with my friends, making little bands.
How'd you go on the talent quest? I
did all right, actually. I usually came second or third, occasionally first, you know, just depending on the year and what we were doing that year. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, what about the first time you got on stage? How did that first gig come about? And tell us about where it was.
I think the first gig that I had, it's kind of hard to remember, like thinking back what the very first one was, but the first one that stands out in my memory was with that band in Albany, apart from school performances, so like first proper like band thing, and it was at the Albany Town Hall, which is quite a good, like decent venue and decent stage.
Oh, those old town halls are great.
Man, middle of town, middle of Albany, and I remember they used to have the cinema there.
Oh, yeah.
So it used to be also the place you'd go and see movies, but I don't know if it still does. But, it was on that stage. And, we had the whole, you know, guitar school ensemble doing all their numbers. And then our band came on. And there was a video somewhere. I don't know if it still exists. Oh, yeah. I have no idea where it would be now. And it was, years later I watched it. And I thought it was quite hilarious just seeing myself as a little rocker.
Oh, yeah.
Wearing a little crop top and being like, head banging. Just
in Albany.
Really getting into it. Really getting into those songs.
Good. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. So that's my first that I can remember, like as a actual stage performance.
Okay.
Somewhere. Yeah.
And so did you stick around? I know you went travelling, but what happened before you went travelling?
So, I mean, I guess because my family moved a lot, I was always sort of travelling in a way, or moving from here to there. So I finished high school in New South Wales, and then I moved up to Wyndham, of all places, top of WA, because my mum was up there at the time and my sister. So I went to visit and stayed up there for about a year, and then amazing lifestyle up there, and then came down to Perth to continue on with whatever. And I started getting into open mics and stuff around Perth, like Leederville open mic. These at the Leedy Hotel. There used to be that Tuesday or Wednesday night or something
like that.
And I met a bunch of really good musicians through that open mic night. Sorry, am I forgetting the question? I feel like I'm drifted already. No, okay.
Yeah. No, so at this point in time, you know, you're really starting to sort of enter the gig world.
Yeah. And then, from there I kind of I had a duo with another girl, and we started doing little gigs wherever we could. Luna Cinemas offered us a gig one time for an opening, so we did one there, and then just random cafe gigs and stuff. And then I started playing with Dave Mann, and then we did a bunch of gigs, all over. We were together for quite a few years, so I went on tour with him, and that was a really good experience.
Where did you tour?
We did lots of stuff. We did quite a bit of stuff going north, so going up through Geraldton all the way up to Broome, Derby, Kununurra, all that with the Dave Mann Collective at the time, and then we went over east and did some stuff with Karis, touring around the Great Ocean Road and Victoria, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And a few big festivals and stuff
It sort of feels like your regional, growing up regionally, and you've kind of adapted your entertainment sort of
To be regional.
To be regional.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
So you got to stick what you know.
Yeah, I never really thought of it like that. But yeah. I guess it's quite...
But I also, like, your music really appeals to that community as well. Like, it's your music is very kind of regional.
Yeah, I guess.
In a way.
That kind of grassroots vibe.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, totally. You've captured it brilliantly, really.
Thanks.
So I'm interested in how you found, like, comparisons between gigging in Australia.
Yeah.
And then you lived overseas. So
yeah.
Where did you move to first?
So I think, well, first of all, I kind of have to go forward and rewind a little bit. So I went overseas a couple times, but the first time I went over from like a big adventure and just left everything here and just was like, I got to go travel. I just, it was in my blood. I got to go. I got to see the world. I took my guitar over to Europe and I went backpacking around Europe with an actual little black book filled with names and addresses. And
little
friends
black book.
Friends. This is before Facebook and iPhones and things.
Yeah, I had one of those.
It was just like my cousin's best friend's dog's mum, you know, and
all
the uncle of
Yeah.
whoever, what's it? And so I just went over literally with these contacts and just, emailed and called people and ended up having this pieced together, I guess, tour of backpacking around Europe of staying with really random contacts, which was quite amazing. And in that time, I'd lugged my guitar around everywhere with me and didn't play one single gig because I was too afraid to play.
Oh, did you?
I was like, what the hell? But I was like...
You looked apart.
But I took that guitar with me. And I played in every bedroom, in every place that I went. Played to every host that was willing to listen.
That. Yeah.
It's just like, getting over
anxiety,
that fear of myself. And then through all of that backpacking and stuff, I ended up getting a job crewing a yacht in Miami. Through my brother. At the time, I'd been a few months in Europe, going everywhere, amazing experiences. London, France, Switzerland, blah blah blah, everywhere, Italy. So I took this job over in Miami. I just had to fly there and blindly kind of see what happened. Started crewing this yacht, which at the time I was like, what the hell am I doing? I've gone from being so free and travelling to suddenly cleaning things with a freaking earbud, like cotton tip butter, like dusting vents. I'm like, my life is shit.
Bit of a contrast.
But it ended up being amazing.
Yeah.
And after a while of doing that, I had this moment, this kind of epiphany moment where I was like, I've got to start singing again. I have to start being on stage again. It's going to kill me if I don't, So I ended up just going up to random people wherever we were on the yacht. And at the time we were in St. Martin in the Caribbean. And
that sounds cool.
it was pretty cool. I'd been like having a breakdown on the beach, crying and journaling and whatever, and I sort of stood up and started walking, and I heard music in the distance, like a Pied Piper. And it was literally a band playing in front of a hotel, a kilometre down the beach. So I just followed the music. And when I got there, I sat and watched the band, and in their break I had a chat and just said, hey, I'm really wanting to play some gigs. Do you know anywhere around town that I could try? And they were like, just come back tomorrow. You can open our set, play a few songs. And
awesome.
That's what happened. And so I made a promise to myself to say yes to every opportunity.
Yeah, totally.
But also to put myself out there.
Yeah.
And then every single place we went, I just did the same thing, and every single time I got offered, come back on Friday and play 3 songs to open our set. So that got me back into performing, but also performing everywhere, in, I guess, regional again, but overseas regional, like in Puerto Rico, in like freaking San Diego, in New York, just playing random little cafes and bars. And
I can see how you'd totally fit into that vibe. And
I loved it.
Yeah,
it was great.
I want to talk about gigs, but like
busking.
Yeah, I suppose.
Busking, yeah. I did that. I did that one time in New York. We were based there on the yacht for a while, and I was like, oh man, I've got to try and get out of my comfort zone and just push myself to be a bit brave here. And I thought, I'm going to go busking. And I was so shit scared to do it. But at the same time, I was like, I've got to overcome this fear of getting out there and just being out there literally on the streets and just playing. So I put on my backpack guitar, caught the ferry across to the mainland because we were in Hoboken at the time. And then I just started wandering around bloody Manhattan, just wandering, and I ended up really randomly in Chinatown. And I was like, this doesn't seem like the right place for me to busk. Because it was just like, you know, people buying their Chinese groceries and,
it's a food thing.
Duck hanging in windows. And like, I think I'm in the wrong spot to busk.
Unless you change keys.
Yeah. And I was just standing there kind of going, and this guy literally just came out of nowhere. I always think I have these angels that appear. So this Nepalese old dude came out of nowhere, angel. And he was like, are you okay? You look a bit lost. And I was like, I'm looking for somewhere to bask, but I think I'm in the wrong spot. And he is like, look, I live a few blocks away in Soho, and there's all these amazing artist markets and people bask there all the time. If you want, you're welcome to come with me and I'll just show you where it is. So at least you're in the right area. You're in the right spot. So, you know, following my instincts, I thought, I'll just go with him and just see where this takes us. And sure enough, he led me to this great area and ended up making me lunch, and he was a real sweetheart, and he's like just so kind. Yeah. And then sent me on my way, and I ended up busking on the streets in Soho in this artist market, and you know, met people, made friends, and then from that, I think it gave me the confidence to then wander around and drop off my CD to a few different cafes and venues, which by that stage were open, and that led to gigs. So it's sort of like.
Yeah, I understand. I know the fear you're talking about, because I've done a bit of busking and I've already played in bands and but stage is different to busking.
Oh, it's so different.
It's so different.
I hate busking. I'm just going to say it now. I hate it.
I like doing it.
I mean, this is totally acoustic. Like if you have amps and stuff, it's probably quite different. But like being totally acoustic outside, I'm like, no. Yeah,
I've had better times when it's not just by myself. But if you look at busking. Is like you don't have a venue, and it's not an event.
Yeah.
But it's like this enigma gig. It's going to happen somewhere.
Like anything can happen. People may or may not stop. They might just keep walking. You might not get anything.
Yeah.
You might get, random gifts in your
exactly case. It's like, I mean, when I've busked, I've met interesting people, and then I've met odd people, and then I've also been a reluctant but do it anyway babysitter.
Oh gosh,
because I was playing at this market.
They just put the baby in the case, like
not babies. To draw the line. They were young children.
Like, okay, children. Yeah.
But I had a box full of percussion instruments and stuff like that, and so. But it got quite popular. But they weren't tipping me.
They're just leaving their kids.
Leaving their kids with me and leaving, and I'm like,
this is so joyful for me. Thanks. I'm getting so much from this right now.
I know. You're obviously not an artist.
This exchange is amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So it can be like that. But busking, you just don't know what's going to happen.
It's true.
It's a really vulnerable thing to do.
And when I think back, I have done it like previous to that, like in Australia in different places, but it was usually like you say with someone else or in a band situation or in a duo thing. Like when I was like still a kid, I guess, teenager.
Right. Yeah.
But as an adult busking, I was just like, I did it once in Berlin as well at the Mauer Park. Like it's a very famous set of markets there, because people do busk there quite often, but. When I look at what their actual setup is, they're professional buskers. They've got the amps, they've got the flyers, they've got the whole setup, they've got the little bike buggy where they put everything on. You know, I just went with my guitar and stood outside in a random spot and started singing.
Yeah, that's
okay. I asked, the vendors around me if this is okay, and they're like, that's fine. Just started playing. But it wasn't that enjoyable for me because I didn't have that amplification, and it's like people just walking past.
It's the risk you take.
I love stages. just put it out. I like being on a stage. It's a different kind of gig.
It is a different kind of gig because I don't know. I like being organised as well.
Yes, me too. Oh my god!
Good. There's a stage.
Yes.
There's microphones.
There's a time frame.
There's a time frame.
People are going to come. They've bought tickets. They're going to buy a ticket. It's like it's set.
Yeah. But the spontaneity of busking, it's also a good sort of, you cut your teeth. A lot of people cut their teeth busking,
Yeah.
And so I want to also talk about, I mean, you've also, gigged with, I'm going to drop some names.
Go on.
Simply Red, John Paul Young.
Yeah.
And I can't get his last name, Ed.
Kowalski.
Yeah. You knew what I was going to say.
Yes.
Of the band Live.
Yes.
So you want to talk about a bit about that?
Sure.
And not so much like how the music sort of came across, but, what happened in the process of doing that work?
Well, the one with Ed Kowalski from Live, that was a real highlight for me because I remember like buying his CD, like the Live CD when it was like.
I remember
big.
the band coming. I wasn't really into them at the time.
I was on some random CD subscription thing at the time, and I was like, and I bought the CD and listened to it a lot. And there was that one song, "Lightning Crashes," I think was the song.
Oh yeah,
lightning crashes and all other time.
Yes.
And for some reason that was like, massive. And
it's very uplifting music.
So uplifting. But I just loved him. And I was so excited to get that gig because I was like, it was kind of like that childhood hero kind of moment of like meeting someone that you had idolised and never ever thought you were actually going to meet them, let alone play on the same stage. I was like, oh my God. So I did a bit of research on him before the gig, and I saw that he really likes coffee, and I love coffee. So I just thought, a nice gift might be some local roasted, coffee beans from somewhere, So I did. I bought some coffee beans for him and presented those to him at some point backstage, and we played at the Octagon Theatre at UWA.
Oh, I know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big theatre.
Yeah. So it was a nice, it was a really nice kind of theatre vibe. And it's just, I mean, that as venues, as, because we're talking about venues in this as well, it's like, as far as venues go, that was a really beautiful venue to play in and really nice captured sound and different place to play.
State of the art.
Yeah.
For theatre and stuff like that.
I'd seen, I don't know if it was the same year, but I'd been to a concert, I think, with my auntie to see Angus and Julia Stone. I think it was there.
That'd be nice.
So I'd heard music there at some point.
It's the kind of music that's played in these places is for sitting down and listening to.
Definitely.
It's like a concert hall kind of experience.
And he was playing solo, I think.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. How long did you play for?
Oh, probably about half an hour or 40 minutes or something. It was like an opening support set. Yeah.
What about, so who else did I drop here? Simply Red, what was that like?
That one was, that was great actually. That was on a big, like a massive, big production stage out at Sanderford Winery.
Oh,
it was like when they did those big outdoor concerts.
Yeah.
So like thousands of people. Obviously because I was the opener, everyone wasn't there yet, but there was still a big bunch of people there. Like not the whole capacity, but still a lot of people. And Marsha Hines was playing as well that same gig. So it was, I think, then me, then Marsha Hines, and then Simply Red. Which is like a nice way to kind of like stack it up.
Oh yeah, totally.
I was like, I'll take that. And I remember, I played that one with my loop pedal, so I did some of my loop numbers, and they were actually filming it too. They offered, I could pay them a bit to get it filmed and whatever.
Okay,
so so I got it filmed by the guys that were already doing it there for the other people.
Oh, okay, cool.
Which was pretty cool.
And was that like a marquee kind of setup? Like,
I just remember it being like a really big, like proper stage because they had big bands coming on after me. So me just being solo in that was like, I'm just one person. Then there's this huge stage, and I guess they build it all up for that. Event, so
I saw the Violent Femmes there.
Yeah, but the rest of it was open air. Like the rest, it's just open.
Yeah, and what about what was Marsha Hines like? Did you meet?
She was lovely.
Yeah,
she was really sweet.
Yeah. I mean, she was a disco queen in the 70s in Australia.
Yeah,
she hit it big in Australia in Perth.
Yeah. No, she was really kind. I met her backstage and she was just sitting in the sun, just soaking up some sunshine, just sitting by herself, having a moment.
Yeah.
And I just went up and said hi to her and the guy I was seeing at the time as well. And, she was just really kind and really lovely and just, you'd be great. Just go do your thing. Like, she was just,
Cool.
I was like, oh.
Did you end up meeting him?
Not really, because
No.
they, like, the whole band was, it was really weird. Like, they had out the backstage was all these marquee land, backstage with tents. And I had my own little tent, and me and my boyfriend at the time, we were just standing there in this tent. There's nothing really in there, just me, and I put some of my stuff there. And then there was like all these other tents for the other people. And then there was this main kind of catering tent. But I didn't really know what the go was. I was quite, new to that kind of thing. So I wasn't aware that, I could just go over there and eat or drink or hang out and
do it.
I just felt like, am I allowed to go over there? I don't know if I'm allowed to go over there. And then at one point, the whole band, the Red Band, was all sitting around. And I think, I don't know whether we must have been looking over or something, but they kind of waved over to us and we kind of waved back. And then I don't remember actually speaking to anyone.
Oh, okay.
I think it was from a distance, just waving and going, oh my God, I feel so embarrassed. I don't know what to do.
I know. I've been in those similar situations. I worked for Big Day Out for 9 years.
Yeah, cool.
And you backstage, you walk past all sorts of people that you might have in your record collection and stuff like that.
I think now I would just be a bit more normal, but like back then I was just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, I remember I met the Strokes, and I was so huge Strokes fan, and I totally just turned into a giggly girl.
Right? And you're like, I'm not going to do it. Damn it, I did it.
Like, good luck, goodbye, guys.
I love your music. You're great.
But they had this presence about them. It's like these. I met Ben Harper. He was a little bit disappointing. I think
he comes across as very warm and loving and.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just felt a disturbance in the force when I met him, and his behaviour was kind of odd. Who knows what's going on in that man's life at the time? That's what it felt like. He didn't want to kind of be there, but he was obligated to. Yeah. So he was just signing and taking photos to get it all over and done with. Stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, there can be some awkward moments with your icons. But sounds absolutely. Like you get to fulfill some of your dreams.
Yeah, I remember one time I went to a Bad Loves concert because I used to love the Bad Loves as well. They were like one of my first CDs as a teenager, and as an adult I went to see them play. I think they just played here somewhere in Frio in an open park, and afterwards I went up to say hi to Michael Spivey because he was my hero, and I again turned into that.
I know, right?
Here's a CD. Did you sign this thing? Like,
run
away quickly. You said hello. That's good.
I had a very brief encounter with Dave Grohl walking around backstage, and he wanted to come up and talk to me, and I had a panic attack.
Wow, yeah.
And when I didn't know I had anxiety.
I just like
and just sort of missed that opportunity.
Yeah.
Just, and
later you just kick yourself.
I kick myself all the time, But yeah, there is something about when you meet famous people.
Yeah.
It depends on how famous they are, though. True. True. And how much you idolise them.
Yeah. I think that's a big factor, is how much you idolise them.
So, because this is interesting for me, because I've always, even though I've done some performance and managing and that kind of thing, my background's more building, hands-on logistics.
Yeah.
But I always, always had a bit of a jealous bone for the art department and the green room department, the VIP department.
Damn you.
I was like, But yeah, maybe talk about comparisons between playing in Australia and playing overseas, any kind of cultural differences.
I think there's definitely a few differences that I found, like especially because I was based in Germany for such a long time. I was 8 years in Berlin and like traveling all over Europe, but a lot in Germany. Like my base foundation was Germany. And I played a lot of small, like regional towns and then cities, but a lot of the better gigs were actually in the smaller regional villages and towns than in the big cities.
Right.
Because you might be the only thing on that night, so everyone comes out, and so you get paid better and it's a better gig and it's more attentive and it's more of an event, Whereas if you play in Hamburg, there's 50 million things happening every night in Hamburg.
It's less competitive in regional towns,
So, but also like as far as culturally goes, I really felt like in Germany that the audiences must be trained from such a young age to appreciate culture and music because they were so appreciative. And you got, most of the places I went, I got treated really well. Like I really, you know, they took really good care of you, made sure you had food and, you know, lodgings and all that kind of, like, made sure everything was taken care of and that the sound was good. And the audience in general, in most places in Germany, were just, they'd come in and sit down and be like concert style, sitting, listening, engaging, clapping, laughing, doing all the right things, you know. So you would feel like a superstar in Germany because of the reaction you were getting.
People's interaction is absolutely sort of more authentic, or
it's really validating. To be honest, like if I'm really honest, it's just totally validating to your artist self that wants this attention and validation. It's like they give it to you.
Yeah, right.
You know, so you really feel that kind of exchange.
I suppose it's an appreciation. Yeah. You know? I know, Aussie audiences can be tough, I think.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, there's benefits and drawbacks of everything. And
absolutely.
I think I always have sort of, I mean, I have played some really great concert-style gigs in Australia too, where people have been in that listening vibe, but they're usually probably more festival type things where people are there for the music specifically, or places like the Ellington where you've got tickets on the door and people come in to see the music. They've come to see you play. Yeah. It's like a set gig. Very different to playing a background cover gig, for example, where, you know, it doesn't, you know, really matter if you're there or not, you know. Yeah. I'm not dissing that because I, you know, make a living from doing that now, so I'm just very happy to do that, you know. But it's a very different feeling to when you're playing to an appreciative audience that sit and listen and clap and interact. And like in Australia, like and even actually, I feel like England and Australia have very obviously there's a lot of English similarities, but the audiences in England can be quite similar as well, where you've kind of got to impress them. You've really got to impress people for them to take notice and then interact and then build something. So I did a lot of touring in England as well, and a little bit in Scotland and stuff as well. And it took a few years, but like through touring in England, I did start to build up a bit of a following, and I had that moments where I felt like, I've cracked it now. Like I've cracked, not huge time, but I've cracked the interaction, or like what it is that gets people interested or gets people engaged. Because
what's a hook?
You might be in a 300-year-old pub in the middle of nowhere with, you know, beautiful old building, and everyone's just having their local normal beer and whatever and chatting on a Friday night. They don't need to pay you attention, you know.
Exactly.
But if you somehow get them interested, engaged, and then suddenly you have this interaction, it can feel really rewarding.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's similar in Australia, where it can be tougher here, I think, to get the attention and grab it. But once you've got it, it feels really rewarding that you've earned it. You know, you know what I mean? Like you have to kind of really...
I think, my experience, I'm not well-travelled, but I've played enough gigs in front of Aussies.
Yeah.
And it can be hard. Like you could be playing to a lot of people, but no one's in the vicinity of a dance floor.
Yeah.
You know, there's a big gap between you and the audience, but there's a shit ton of people out there.
There's space.
Yeah,
there's a little bit of space.
The void.
That's the thing about Europe too. There's not as much space and there's more people, so they're closer to you. you get packed into this venue and you're like right there, and they're right there. It's like,
I wonder if it's about history, you know, because Europe obviously has a very sort of vaster European culture that, you know, the arts have been celebrated in Europe for a long time.
I feel like that.
And here it's, I don't know what it is. But
I feel like one thing I find here as well in Australia is like, I'd almost rather play somewhere where there is a couple of drunken people that are gonna say something, that are some yubbos that are gonna yell something out, because then it gives you something to play back with. Yes. Like, okay, I can come back to that. Like I can get, like, I've got some interaction now.
Yeah.
And I think it's also maybe even a shyness sometimes that people don't want to step out and be the one that's looking different, or clapping because no one else is clapping, or it's like there is a bit of a shyness to just express yourself and be
or engage.
Yeah.
You ever been to a gig, or this kind of happens in comedy or theatre where people are reluctant to sit up the front because they don't want to get picked.
Yeah.
And I mean, what's going to happen to you? You're going to have like this little memorable moment that is probably going to be funny or something.
It'll be great. Yeah.
But I did a couple of shows in the past where the front seats were being taken up, you know. Yeah. And I'm like, you can sit there. No, we don't want to be chosen. I'm like, I can still choose you.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to choose you now because I don't want to be chosen.
Oh my God, I can't choose anyone anymore now. No one has sat at the front.
Yeah. Like nobody. Yeah.
But you know, this mentality of like, I don't want to be, you know.
Yeah, putting yourself out there.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Again.
But I also found like, you know, talking about audiences, like places like Norway where I would play as well.
Oh yeah.
The audiences there, it's like they were like once you get in, like once they've had a few drinks and they're like in party mode, they would love everything you did. Like they were the party. Like they would bring the party. And so that was a really different place to play as well.
Some cultures are just more enthusiastic than others.
They're so enthusiastic. They're just like, and they're really like loud about it and really like, you know, singing along and like, you know, dancing and so
Brazilians are like that. I've done production for the Brazilian festival.
Yeah, awesome.
There's no off button
with
those people, and we were literally packing up the last bit of the stages, and there was one dude banging a drum.
Awesome.
And I was like, dude, it's over.
Yeah, like, no, it's never over.
The party. So I find that interesting, the engagement of people from different nationalities.
Yeah.
But I suppose, culturally here, you know, apart from Indigenous culture, everything else is introduced.
Yeah, true.
You know, and we have these sort of choices of what we can engage in. And people just, I suppose, like to stick to their thing.
Yeah.
What about sound and like sound production wise? I know what it's like being on a stage and not being able to hear yourself.
Yeah.
Can you share any experiences about
with sound? I mean, a lot of the places I've ended up playing because I've played mostly as solo artist.
Yeah.
It's been a lot more controllable, I guess, in a way, which is probably part of my personality, like wanting to keep that under control.
But as a solo artist, I suppose you have such a less kind of complex sound.
I mean, it can still go really bad,
but
definitely.
I mean, even if you, I've been in those where it's just me.
Yeah,
it still sounds like crap.
Yeah, it's like, how can I fix this? What's going on? Gosh, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. I guess one of the like a highlight of sound would probably be like, you know, those big concerts that I played where, you know, the sound is just going way out there and it's big, and if the fallback's really good and you can hear yourself really well, you obviously play better because you sound good to yourself, so then you play even better.
Yeah.
But there's definitely been times I can't just try and think off the top of my head.
Well, let's stick to that because I've only stood on those stages when they've been built.
And,
and they're bare, you know. But I've looked upon them and gone, wow, that would be cool. You know? But what is that feeling like, being in one of those big stages with all those people and the production and everything?
Pretty amazing. I mean, I'm thinking now of one time I was playing a festival in Germany in a place called Bamberg, and it was a blues and jazz and blues festival, I think. And I'd played 2 different days. This might be a good example, actually. The first day I played on a massive stage in the middle of the town, and it just the vibe wasn't there. It was just kind of like, it was a bit lost. I was just one person and there wasn't really a lot of engagement. It was just kind of like, take it or leave it. But the next day I was put on this other stage sort of down some side streets, and it was a different kind of stage where it was a bit, it was still like a big-ish stage, but not the big, massive one. But the sound was still really good. And there was just heaps of people, and they were really close. And so you could get that really intimate feeling. And the people kind of spilled out through the streets, but it then gathered, you know. And because the sound was really good, I was just playing with it, you know, like, you know, you could do these loops and you could see people just kind of grooving. You know, you could just see the little bop of like, you know. And I was like, and you can, those moments they're the moments you live for. It's
that's when you see someone individually connecting with your music. Yeah. That's a buzz. Yeah. I've worked on big day outs and big sort of major things like that, and I have friends that work in doing the same thing, but in Europe and America, and safety is probably something that comes up a lot. Yeah,
I was thinking of the safety thing. I used to play quite a few like a Weihnachtsmarkt, which is like Christmas markets around Germany, and sometimes you'd be out on a stage, like an open air stage, and it would start snowing.
Oh no!
Or start sleeting, like that's like wet sort of snow.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, I think this is dangerous. There's I'm
water and electricity.
A microphone. I think I'm going to get. And that you'd have to have a point where you call it, because if no one else is around you to call it, it's like totally. I think someone needs to call this. Like it's not like not a health and safety. Or sometimes when I'd be playing these beautiful Christmas markets in villages or whatever, and it'd be open air, but you'd have a nice stage or whatever, but your fingers would get so cold that you couldn't feel anymore. Like they would be absolutely numb. And there was several times when I had to ask, while I was playing, just between songs, can you just grab me a cup of hot water? Please, please, please. And someone would go and grab me some hot water, like bring a mug of hot water to me, and I'd literally just dip my fingers in and bring them out just so I could feel them.
Defrost your fingers.
Like dip them in hot water.
Wow.
Dry them and keep playing, because I could not actually feel. And you know how when you're playing chords, you just go so much by feel. And it's like when you can't feel your fingers, it's like, hang on, what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing? Is it right? Yeah. It was really bizarre.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh, so there's some occupational hazards.
Yeah. Right. Temperature.
The weather.
Yeah, the weather. Exactly. Yeah. I I love it as well. Like you had to wear beanies and scarves and.
I love rugging up.
Boots. And it's fun, and it's such a novelty. When you're from WA.
But trying to entertain people while your fingers are freezing.
Yeah.
And no one can tell.
Quite difficult. And then sometimes they just bring you Glühwein, like thinking you wanted a drink.
Oh.
It's like, thank you, I love Glühwein, that's really kind, but I don't want to dip my fingers in Glühwein and then play, because then it'll be sticky on my guitar.
So
I actually need hot water as well. And hot water. Thank you. And you take a sip of your Glühwein, 1 or 2 sips, play a song, go back to it, and it'll be cold. It's not the same feeling as... Okay. You want to talk about green rooms?
Oh yeah,
green rooms. One really cool. I mean, in Germany again, they were pretty good with if it was a slightly bigger gig or a
more high profile.
Yeah, or even just there's some towns which would really look after you more than other ones, I guess, and you'd end up with such amazing things backstage, or quite often it's the next morning you'd get this amazing Frühstück, the German breakfast, where it would be delivered to your door. It would be just all these amazing...
like a breakfast platter.
Yeah. I love German breakfast. It's all these cheeses and breads. The cheese. We got there in the end. We got back to the cheese. Full circle.
Big day out. Green rooms were always, there was a team that looked after all that kind of stuff, and they would decorate it for the people, But at the end of the festival, at the end of the night, I'd go through there and just take home so much cheese and fruit and the uneaten food, heaps of it, and some I just couldn't even take home. So, But
some of the gigs I did in France, oh my god,
oh, really?
Leftover cheese, hallelujah.
Oh, cool, man.
I did have some funny, I guess, experiences too of green rooms, just where was sharing with other artists, and you wouldn't necessarily know who the other artists were, and you'd just be backstage at a kind of festival or a mixed event or whatever. And then one year I ended up in Germany playing at this festival in Nürnberg, and it was like a, what do you call it? It was kind of like this competition for, I'd been through all these rounds of singer-songwriter competition, and you get voted every time by the audience of who goes to the next round.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what you call that, but yeah, it's sort of a
competition.
Thing. Yeah. And I was really, lucky to go through a few rounds and get to this point, and it was like the last 3 people for another competition, but bigger stage, big outdoor thing. And then I didn't even realise what the prize was until the end, and I won, and it was like €1,000. So I was like, oh, wicked, I didn't even know. And then I got to sing with the Spencer Davis group.
Oh, really?
They were there in the green room, and I didn't even know who they were. I mean, I know who they are, like, musically, but I didn't recognise the people as because I haven't followed, them intensely. So we were just, like, backstage hanging out and eating with these people and chatting, and then it's like, oh, you get to go on stage and sing with them. I was like, what? Yes! And that was a moment when I wasn't really starstruck because I didn't realise until it was time for stage, like, who they actually were. Cool. Yeah. And I'd already been chatting with them, so it wasn't a...
Sure.
You're like,
well, that went better than
that's nice.
Expected.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I didn't turn into a giggling, girl and run away. That's amazing. Right on.
I've always done the production building side of things, and from afar looked at all the artists having fun in their green rooms.
You're like, I want to be in the green room. Do they have, like, production green rooms?
No, not really.
They're like staff green rooms? They must have something.
There was just a big day out. There wasn't so much, like, it was just a...
Backstage block of cheese?
Yeah.
Just one block to share with everyone?
Table with a big block of cheese.
And a knife.
And a knife, I was going to say knife. Right in the middle.
Who gets the cheese?
There wasn't really much splashed out for the production crew and stuff like that. But there was always just this backstage area where people... But the thing is, I wore a AAA for 9 years.
Yeah.
So you go back there, go to the toilet, eat some fruit, have a drink, and then go back out.
Yeah.
After 9 years, went to the big day out without a AAA and hated it.
Yeah. It's like,
hated it. It's like, why would you do this to yourselves?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God.
What would you say is your greatest victories and milestones, do you think?
I think, definitely moving over to Germany and starting, like, music career over there from basically it felt like it was starting from scratch again basically when I moved over to Berlin. I'd done a couple of tours from Australia to around Europe, like bits and pieces, jigsaw pieced it together, and then when I actually fully moved over, that was such a big adventure and such a big leap of faith to just see what happens, and from that just building up a touring circuit and meeting a lot of venue people and booking agents and other artists, and that was definitely a big milestone, I guess, for me. Like, and that I stayed over there for about 8 years, so I really built it up to just, it was my life, I lived my lifestyle.
Totally. You're literally living the dream.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thanks, man.
And so then you do the whole Europe thing, and you come back to Australia.
Yeah.
And so, do you want to talk a bit about your...
Don't want to talk about it. No, I don't want to talk about it. I can talk about it. What am I talking about?
Well, we've packed your whole entire entertainment life into about 20, 30 minutes so far.
Yeah, amazing.
And so we're now at the point where you've conquered Europe.
Yep, love it.
So what made you decide to leave Europe and come back to Australia?
I think I was at a point where I just... I'd been doing a lot of touring around, and I'd been doing a lot of similar kind of circuits and like similar gigs, and like I think I got to a point where each time I came home I was just noticing all my family getting older, like the nephews getting taller, and I just sort of had that feeling, a little bit of that feeling of missing out on family closeness, and it's like, what am I doing this for? Like, why? I've been fulfilling my own destiny and my own purpose and ambitions and stuff, but at the end of the day, what is the whole point of this? And like, what else do I want out of life, And I think I was really craving that connection with family and maybe getting some more roots again at home, because I'd been away for so long. But it was a very, very difficult decision to come home, because I also really loved being in Germany and
sounds like you really established yourself.
Yeah.
And then you had to make a decision to...
Yeah. It was kind of heartbreaking in a way for me to leave all that I'd worked so hard for to build up and all those connections and all that. It felt like a bit like all that work is going to waste if I let it go. But I had a good chat with lots of people and they were like, you haven't wasted anything. You've experienced it. You've done it. You've been there. You've built it and can always go back to it and do other things.
Absolutely. Everything is temporary.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
you raise a common theme in this industry we work in about distance and being away from people, where it's part of the job that if you're a touring artist, whether you're performing or production or whatever, especially large major gigs, you're on the road for months. And things at home go on. And they go on without you. And then you come home. And so this is a similar theme that keeps popping up in interviews with people in our industry, where your marriage could be on the rocks because of it. Friendships come and go. Opportunities.
Definitely.
It's pretty common.
I think that definitely had a big part to play in some of the relationships that I had that ended up we went our separate ways because I think it is a very hard thing to be with a touring artist. It's very difficult to be on the other side of it. Like I think on the side of being the artist, it's not as, in a way it's not as difficult because you're out there doing stuff and you've got constant input and you're busy and you're working and you've got this interactions happening with people all the time and gigs and whatever and the high that you get from performing, when it's a good gig, that sort of that almost addictive high that you get,
that hit.
Then to come home and your person is working their job that they always work and they're doing whatever they do on the weekends when you're not there, and then you're suddenly wanting to be just like back in and be the favourite person and be everything. It's kind of like, well, it's not always fair for the person that gets left behind. Like they've got to kind of be able to cope with both ways, like you not being there and you being there.
It's an exciting industry to be part of. But
I think it might also be different if you've got a band.
As
opposed to being solo, because I think when you're going out solo, it's another level of being alone.
Well, it's a different level.
You're not bringing friends with you. You're not bringing a crew with you.
Well, I would say that, a pro to being a solo touring artist is that you do have control.
Definitely.
And any decision you make affects you and no one else.
Exactly.
Unless you sign a contract. Bring a band into it, and it's a completely complex process. It's completely different.
Definitely.
So you've been very fortunate to steer this whole thing independently.
I have. I agree.
Yeah. And how are you re-establishing yourself back home now? Have you managed to pick up old gigs here and there? And
like when I first got back, I was working full time for my brother and managing his cafe deli.
Oh, okay.
So I actually slid in just before COVID hit, just before, and then all of that happened. But I had this full time job doing something else, so I did that for a year and a half, and then I just slowly got in touch with my old contacts here and just did a few one gig here, one gig there, Clancy's and the Duke and a few different gigs and I did do a few gigs with the band because I had a few crew that I was working with for a bit, and then I sort of was lucky enough to be sort of around and with sort of Cav and his sort of solo project stuff, and he got us to come away and do some gigs, regional stuff, which was really fun, just doing some backup singing and harmonies, which I really love as a secondary thing to my own stuff. I've always really enjoyed and naturally been drawn to doing harmonies for people. So I've done that in a few different bands and stuff along the way. And from that kind of ended up in me working on a few songs in the studio with him, and then he worked on one of my songs as well, and so that's been a nice thing to come into coming home. And some other really great musicians that I've been involved with through that as well.
It's good that you managed to keep the connections.
Yeah, well, I didn't actually know him before. I met him through Tone Burke.
Okay.
Yeah, we were doing some gigs together, and yeah, so it's been like kind of like new things opening up as well, and then, you know, meeting Siobhan and we did some backup vocals together for one of Cav's studio gigs recently, and
cool.
that was really nice. So it's almost like connecting with older friends and musicians, but then also making new contacts as well, and just being able to organically just do things when they come up and just see where things go. And it's just really nice to be in it again, you know? Yeah. But then I'd also had this album that I'd made in Germany just before I left.
Oh, okay.
Which I'd done a crowdfunder over there, and I'd done a few gigs, but I hadn't released like officially online and everything. So I had that sort of in the background just sitting there that whole time.
Oh, wow.
And I released one single, I think, the first year I was back, and then one single the next year. And then I've just released one again like this year, just a few weeks ago. And I've kind of been thinking, yeah, well, why not just do it like that for now? Because it's not like people are buying CDs off the shelf like they were.
Yeah.
It seems to be about singles at the moment.
Yeah.
So why not just drip feed singles from an album that is there and it's great. Like I co-wrote half the songs with a really great musician friend of mine over there in Germany, and it's good stuff, you know. Like,
the playfield has changed.
Yeah.
And you can do it yourself as well. Yeah, so music management has become quite independent. Do you manage yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. I work with some really good booking agents.
Oh, yeah.
So they get me a lot of the gigs that I do these days. But as far as like, my own music stuff, I manage my own stuff. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Which can be good and not good depending on how you go.
It's got to be done.
It's got to be done, yeah.
It's got to be done.
Exactly.
And so tell me about you've got a Singing for Non-Singers e-course.
I do.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so I made that when I was in Europe, and because I'm also like online a part of a lot of groups about kind of entrepreneurs and business people, sort of been in those groups for a long time online, and we all kind of support each other in, you know, finding other avenues to create income and sustainability. And as an artist, it's really great to have, you know, other incomes as well, other streams coming in.
Absolutely.
And I also thought, well, what can I create that would be useful to people? And the thing I get asked the most or commented on the most is my singing.
Yep.
So I thought, well, if I can help, you know, other people kind of unlock their voices, and a lot of people who don't think they can sing, but I sort of feel like anyone can sing if you really want to and you train enough at it.
I mean, look at all the different styles of people that don't even call themselves singers. Yeah. You know, that
like everyone that can speak, everyone has a voice that has a voice. If you can speak, I feel like you can sing.
Sure.
You might not be great, but there's different. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely some people are born with a head start or different tone qualities or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, like our Swedish black death metal singers. For that genre,
right?
They are.
I can't say I've listened to that music, but I can imagine what you're saying. You know, it's a lot of screaming.
Yeah, a lot of growling.
You
know, the growlers. You know? Yeah. What are your future plans, and what are your plugs, and what are you up to these days?
Well, I do have a new single in the wings, waiting to come out. The song I worked on with Cav recently, he did production for it, which is really great. Again, working with a different producer, having another whole sound. I really find that part of the creative artistic process really interesting, because I'm coming always with this raw material, and each producer I've worked with has a totally different take on how it can sound.
Yeah, the other totally. End, you know? Well,
so it's exciting, sort of having this single in the wings, waiting to come out when it's time, when the moment is right.
When you're ready.
When I'm ready.
Yeah.
there might be some more gigs, with him as well. I don't know. We'll see what happens. What else have I got in the wings? I feel like there's other things I can't think of right now.
Is your tour page up to date? You've got...
Sort of.
1st of the 7th, you're playing in Busselton.
Yes. This Friday I'm playing in Busselton, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mandurah Floriat. The Park Floriat.
Yeah.
Is that the old Floriat Hotel?
I don't know. I've never done that one before. Yeah.
It is. It's called the Park Floriat.
The Park, yeah.
Yeah. Greenfields.
Yeah.
Three Rivers Brewing Company.
Yeah, that's down Mandurah way.
South Perth. Canning Vale. Where are you playing Canning Vale? The last
local. A lot of these ones are cover gigs, where I'm just...
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Playing... But I also... I found the way that I do it is like I play my originals as well. So then I just sort of mix them between, and people start to get to know my originals by me just playing them in
is that
between
your
covers.
strategy?
My strategy.
Yeah.
This is my dropping... Like, occasionally someone will go, oh, was that yours? Did you write that? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, wow. And I'm like, that's what I do. Like, that's my thing. But I just got to be like, yeah, no. Yeah, it's... Well, that and Brown Eyed Girl, great songs.
Oh, Brown Eyed Girl. And I see you're doing. You're playing the Como Bowling Club.
Yes, I love that gig. It's cute. It's fun.
It's a good venue.
It's a great venue. It's like a little. It's like a country pub that's been plonked down in the middle of the city.
Yeah, I love bowling clubs.
Vibes. There's a vibe.
Yeah, the bowling club vibe is just.
There's a vibe.
Yeah,
and they've got the thing where they put the balls in and they do
bingo.
Well, it's like a raffle. They pull out I think they're macadamia nuts that they've drawn numbers on. And they're like, it's in a little cage thing that goes around, and they like pull it out as a raffle thing, I guess.
Oh, okay.
And people win like frozen seafood things instead of winning like a meat hamper. They like win a packet of frozen prawns or something. It's great. It's so.
Como's a bit more upmarket.
Oh man, it's great. Or a bottle of wine. I'm just
they're beyond the meat trays now.
I love it. There's a vibe. But I mean, a lot of the what I really love is that because I work with a lot of booking agents for a lot of the gigs that I get. Some I book myself as well, but I kind of look at the month ahead and go, oh, where am I going this month? And it is almost like touring because I'll be going to a bunch of new places. Like I've never been to the Floriat before.
Totally.
That'll be a new place.
Yeah.
Actually was a bit delayed because I got a phone call from one of my booking agents booking up the rest of this month. So I do actually need to update that now because I'm actually booked out for every weekend. And I haven't got them all in there yet because I was literally on the phone coming to you. And I was like, hang on. I've got to stop the car to put this in my calendar and then I'll come.
I'm not reprimanding you, but anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, so there's a lot.
So you kind of hit the ground running back in Oz.
Yeah.
By the sounds of it and looks of it, entertaining the regional communities.
I am. Yes.
What's your favourite place to visit?
Oh gosh, I did a few gigs down in Albany. Earlier, I can't remember if it was this year or last year now, but at some point a few months ago.
Sure.
And that was fun, just going back to my roots in a way, but playing gigs in venues where when I was a kid I probably would have gone, oh, maybe one day,
Oh, I assume you would have played the Fairbridge Festival.
In the past, yes.
Yeah.
I did not in the last couple of years, but yeah, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Since the COVID bomb.
Yes, but yeah, definitely. Yeah, I loved playing at Fairbridge and
that is
Nanup Festival.
Oh, I've never been to Nanup, but Fairbridge been plenty of times.
Yeah. And Denmark Festival of Voice, I did that years ago, and I know they've got it again now.
Yeah, right.
There's a few of these things like that I need to start applying for again. They're getting on that old bandwagon of applying. The year before for the next year's shenanigans.
Yeah, well, I reckon you got a good chance.
Yeah, oh, thanks, man.
No worries. Hey, Prita, it's been really nice talking to you.
You too.
And thanks for sharing your story.
You're welcome.
And
anytime.
I'll hit you up again.
Next time we'll bring cheese.
Cheese, please. And chocolate. Cheese and chocolate.
Damn it.
I'm destroyed.
Okay. Done.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you.